Hello, lovely friend. I am Dr. Mary Barson.
And I'm Dr. Lucy Burns.
We are doctors
and weight management and metabolic health experts.
And this is the Real Health and Weight Loss Podcast.
Good morning, lovely friend. How are you this morning? I'm so happy to have a chat with you today and introduce you and welcome, of course, our gorgeous, the one and only Dr. Mary. Hello, beautiful woman. How are you?
Hello, one and only Dr. Lucy. I'm good. I'm much cooler. Today we had an extreme heat issue here in southern Victoria. It was over 40 degrees for the last 3 days on the long weekend. It was very extreme and extremely uncomfortable, but today is quite cool. So I'm very grateful.
Which is a wonderful segue, actually, into our topic today of extremes.
That's right. Beware the extremes.
Yes. And in fact, I think that is it. We come with a warning, beware the fanatic. And it's interesting in the world of nutrition and particularly in the world of weight loss, there are fanatics, there are extremes, and they're enticing. And we thought today we'd unpick a bit of this and give you our version of what we think is helpful and possibly not, in some ways we're shooting ourselves in the foot because it is far more commercial to be an extremist, but we're not interested in that. So, Maz, let's talk a little bit about fanaticism.
Well, it's everywhere. And we're humans, we're drawn to stories. We love a good story. And, a story of extreme transformation, it's very enticing. We also quite love rules and we like things to be simple. And that is another draw of the extreme. So time was when being on a diet that was lower in carbohydrate was considered extreme. I don't think it is anymore. I think it's largely accepted as a very healthy way to go for most people. But now within our low carb world, there is, an extreme which is gaining great momentum, which is to go carnivore, like to go essentially zero carb and eat no plant foods and only eat animal foods. And it's certainly very alluring. And now almost the low carb world, like within the low carb doctors, it's an interesting little community. It's lovely. Lots of fabulous people, but there is this strong emergence now where it's like it's become cool and fashionable to be a carnivore doctor, to be in that extreme. And it's easy. I can see it's so simple. Just don't eat plants. It's simple. It's extreme. There's a lot of really good looking people out there advertising this, promoting this. We humans have a natural bias towards good-looking people, which is something that we need to be mindful of. But it's not the only extreme out there. Certainly for a long time, there is a well-established extremism to veganism and only eating plants. Like you have to eat plants. Any animal foods at all is extremely unhealthy. So you have to be vegan, but you also have to be carnivore. There's also other extremism in this world, Lucy. It's fascinating that there is, I think, an understandable backlash against the stigmatization of people who are in heavier bodies, against the emphasis that the medical community puts on patients that you have to lose weight. Women feel they go to the doctor every single problem, they've got an infected toenail and it's because they're overweight, they feel blamed. Then there is this movement of, health at every size and accepting yourself as you are. So many things about that are absolutely beautiful, but it can even go the other way, that if people want to lose weight, then they can be victimized and demonized for buying into this whole toxic diet culture. So there's extremes pulling us in all these different directions, and I think that they're all dangerous, albeit alluringly so.
Absolutely. I think, beware the extreme. And look, weight loss has been, it's an industry that's been going on forever, so it's certainly not a new industry. One of the premises of weight loss is that you particularly will have aesthetically thin people selling a program or a protocol or a product or a supplement, and the message is either overtly, do what I do and you look like me, or sometimes more subtly, but it's still there. It's do what I do and you'll look like me. Eat what I eat and you'll look like me. So in many ways, it's worth recognizing and again, it doesn't mean that you can't follow people like that. Like, you're the boss of you. You can do whatever you like, as you know. But it's worth noting that if somebody is giving you a message and there's persistent, maybe images of them not wearing a shirt if they're a bloke, or in a teeny tiny bikini if they're female, that maybe there's some reasoning behind that. And the reasoning is, do what I do and you'll look like me. But that's not actually true.
No, it's a red flag. People need to have big muscles and or a G-string to promote their program. It's a red flag. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who've got great programs and also take photos of themselves in G-strings, but it's a warning sign.
Yeah. And look, it's interesting. I mean, we don't do before and after shots for two reasons. One, as AHPRA-regulated doctors, there's some very strict rules around before and afters, and they have to be and look, in general, they're cosmetic surgeons or plastic surgeons that would do before and afters, and they have to be done under very strict conditions because it's extremely easy to manipulate a before and after shot. I could take two photos of me standing in front of a mirror and make one where I look much bigger than the other one and then go, taken 3 weeks apart because I did my program. So they're not necessarily true for a start, but more importantly, they tell like a sliver of the story. And the story, again, if you need before and after shots to sell your program, then you're basically buying into that underlying belief system that the smaller you are, the more worthy you are, the more valuable you are.
Yes. And this is a fanaticism that has had us in the grip for a long time.
Don't get me wrong. I used to love before and after shots. I used to, again, back in the day when I'd buy my Weight Watchers magazine, I'd be scouring through to look for transformation stories. And I thought that they were helpful because, they seemed to show promise and I was excited and they would keep me motivated. And so I'd love to hear them, watch them, and particularly look at them, which I think is why The Biggest Loser was such a compelling show, because people would see these incredible transformations and potentially insert themselves into that story. But here's the thing, 40 years of watching television shows and buying weight loss magazines never allowed me to maintain my weight loss. So when you look at evidence, and again, this is how you can manipulate evidence, the evidence would suggest that the more weight loss magazines you buy, the less likely you are to maintain your weight loss.
Yes. And there's really important reasons for that, because so much of that weight loss advice was wrapped up in another dogma, which is still prevalent today, which is weight loss is all about calories, all about reducing your calories, all about being strict with yourself, sucking up the fact that you're hungry and just getting on with it. And if you can't do that, well, obviously you're a gluttonous sloth.
Oh, yes, because nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. And honestly, I cannot tell you how much I internalized that, how many times I just denied my hunger, my physiology, all of the things until it became too much. And then I'd just go on a bender and then I'd stuff it and I'd stop buying Weight Watchers magazines and, just crawl into my hole and eat 10 donuts.
Two unhealthy extremes there, Lucy.
I know. And that's it. They're all or nothing. And it's really interesting. So we're pretty open about the fact that as doctors, we're really good at medicine and we're still learning business. And I've been reading a couple of business books and marketing and all that stuff. And one of them was suggesting that in order to sell more stuff, you have to create an extreme, because that will then attract people to your extreme, and that selling middle of the road is boring, that nobody does that.
We need to create an us and them, except that's not what we're going to do. Yeah.
No. And we don't do that because we don't believe in extremes, which is different to saying everything in moderation.
Yes, they are different messages. Now, can we unpack a little bit more about why we're drawn to extremes and why we don't think that extreme versions of any particular dietary philosophy or weight loss philosophy is helpful? Why is it that finding your own, specific sort of nuanced balance that works for you, why that might not be as sexy or as easy to sell, in inverted commas, why is it better?
So again, health and weight loss, they are separate, but there's an overlap. And we love the overlap. The overlap is what we're all about. People love extremes or shortcuts because they're looking for a solution that makes it easy for them, where they don't have to think. And so if somebody says to you, I've got the secret, this is the reason you haven't been able to do what you wanted to do before, it's because of my secret, then it brings hope. You go, oh, goody, I'll try this. It seems, yeah. The tricky thing is that sometimes within these movements, and again, this can be anything. It's not just carnivore. It's not just vegan. It can be any movement. If it doesn't work for you, the message is that you're not trying hard enough, because this extreme thing works for everybody. And so if it's not working for you, it's because you're not doing it enough. You're not strong enough. You're not doing it properly. You're not right. And so then you kind of just crawl away feeling hopeless again.
This is a fundamental point of human physiology, is that we are different and that we are diverse. There are people out there who thrive on, the standard dietary guidelines of a lower fat, higher carb diet. They eat heaps of whole grains. They have heaps of legumes. They have their bread and they're great. They're healthy. They're fine. Those people are out there. Absolutely. There are people who've got all kinds of issues like autoimmune issues and significant issues, and they go on a carnivore diet either for a little while or even forever, and it works for them and they do well. There are people out there living their best life on a plant-based diet. Absolutely there are. The thing is that what works for you won't work for me. I mean, Lucy, you and I, we know we've got quite different metabolisms. We know that we do, even though we share a similar dietary philosophy, whole food, real food first, reduce your sugars and starches if you've got metabolic issues. There is no one size fits all, and it's not a case of buy this supplement and you'll look great in a G-string like I do. One size does not fit all. It never does. One size fits one sometimes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One
size fits one sometimes.
Perfect. It's interesting, isn't it? Because it really is about allowing people to, I love your expression too, that you need to be your own compassionate scientist. So you need to experiment with what does work for you. And if you try something and it doesn't work for you, well, that's okay. You're not the failure. It's the protocol or the process or the diet or the food or the whatever. It's like our brains. Like we all have different way our brains work, our operating systems. So people will go to you, oh, I've got the perfect scheduling tool. I've got the amazing way to keep all your notes in one place, or I've got an incredible calendar system. You need to use this calendar system because it'll be so easy for you. And I look at the calendar systems and I think, I can't understand this. I don't know how it works. Even then they show me and I still think, and I'll give it a crack. And I'll go, no, it's just, we need to work with our bodies, with our brains. And that requires finding your way through what is, and I know that word minefield is used all the time, but it literally is a minefield of weight loss advice.
An example comes to mind. I had a beautiful young woman who had type 1 diabetes, And as frequently happens to people who have type 1 diabetes, she was also developing insulin resistance. And that has the not very appealing name of double diabetes. I just don't really like that name, but that is what it's called. And so she wanted to lose weight, but had a whole lot of weight loss trauma, a whole lot of health trauma as well, as you could understand, this poor woman. And she decided that the health at every size movement, Hayes, had to be for her. That was what she needed. And she bought books and she went to some seminars and she's like, this is it for me. And I remember seeing her in my GP clinic several years ago, and she felt really defeated and really sad. And she felt like a failure because health at every size wasn't working for her, for a whole lot of reasons. Just metabolically, the health at every size movement, one big component of that is that you eat whatever you want and that you do it mindfully. And, she could mindfully eat, a chocolate Oreo, but it would raise her blood sugar and cause all of these sorts of problems. But rather than being able to just reject, okay, well, health at every size isn't for me, she actually sort of thought that she had failed health at every size. And so she'd stepped on one of these mines that you've talked about, Lucy, is you've got to be really careful of falling into that ideology that if something doesn't work for you, that doesn't mean that you are the failure. It just means that it's not like the right strategy for you and that, you need to step around that one and find something else.
Yeah. Absolutely. And this is the world that we navigate in. And there are people out there who will tell people, your weight's not the problem. It's pretty hard yakka if you can't do up your shoelaces because, your tummy's in the way to say to somebody, oh, your weight's not the problem. Or if they can't, fit through the airplane toilet because their body's too big. For some people, their weight causes them problems. Now, again, we can rephrase that into a rather than making it part of their identity, so their weight, it could be, we can rephrase it as a person who's living with obesity. The obesity becomes a problem for them. The obesity is causing them discomfort, it's hurting their knees, it's giving them inflammation, it's causing them problems. And so they may want to treat their obesity with weight loss, and yet they may have people going, oh, no, your weight's not the problem. You need to just walk more and that can be unhelpful.
Yeah, you're allowed to want to lose weight. If you're allowed to want that. And that doesn't mean that, you're failing in any way if weight loss is one of your goals.
No. And in fact, this came up in one of our Facebook groups where a lady was going off to have a surgical procedure and she wanted to lose some more weight before her surgery. And again, she popped in the group that she was on a weight loss stall and she'd lost 38 kilos already. And so I calculated out she's already lost 25% of her body weight. In her mind, she's still overweight. And again, I don't know her. She might be technically according to, the very outdated BMI. But what you and I will know, if you've lost 38 kilos, particularly doing it, and again, she's done our program, so she will have done it through low-carb real food, so a healthful way to do so, not extreme shakes and whatnot, then she's highly likely to be very healthy on the inside.
She is healthy on the inside.
Yeah. And if you just take a snapshot of someone and you make a judgment on their body size, you've got no idea. Like, it's a snapshot in time. And this is where, again, the fanatics, that's what drives me mad, is when people are then promoting programs based on an aesthetic that is meaningless, essentially, in relation to health. So, if someone wants to lose 3 kilos to go from a size 8 to a size 6, then for them, I would say, yeah, your weight's not a problem. Like, it's not. You want to lose weight to fulfill something else. And that's, again, you're the boss of you. You can do whatever you want, but that might need some exploring. But if you're finding that you're having trouble drying your toes and you want to lose weight, then you're bloody allowed to.
You are allowed to, yes. Yep, reject the extreme that makes you feel bad for wanting that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what we would say to you, though, is that beware the charlatans out there peddling snake oil and promising the world, because as much as we all want to go to bed one night and wake up in the morning with all, weight loss problems solved, we have a little phrase for that, which we call weight loss tats lotto. And the reason we call it that is that studies will indicate that many people who win tats lotto within 3 years have lost all their money. And the reason they've done that is that they never really learned money skills. They never really learned about saving, budgeting, investing. They just became good at spending. And after 3 years, they ran out of money. And the same thing can happen with weight loss. Like, weight loss is not just a destination. It's actually a development of skills. And so we will often call it a personal development journey. And it can actually be really, really fun, which I know sounds a bit wanky, but true. It can be when you have your tribe, have your people, and, you learn to celebrate things other than purely scale victories.
When you learn to love the process of nourishing and nurturing yourself well, and finding the plan that works for you to nurture and nourish yourself well without, stepping on those bombs of those minefields, and sort of, have it all blow up in your face. When you learn to figure out what works for you and you explore it, you develop it, and you can see yourself getting healthier, getting more energy, becoming more of the healthy on the inside, we usually like to call a hottie, HOTI. As you become a hottie with your tribe of hotties, then it's beautiful and it's fun.
And I think, again, just to reiterate for our beautiful friends out there, that if someone's an extremist, if someone says this is the only way to do it, run. Because there's not, in Australia we have the fairly macabre saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. There absolutely is. And as for us as doctors and coaches, we support people to make choices that work for them. And it's not do what we say and you'll reach nirvana. It's what are we going to do that will work for you, and how are we going to help you do that? And how are we going to help you work out a way that this is going to work long term? Because nobody wants to lose 5 kilos only to put 10 on.
No. And yes, it's not quite as sexy as, a more sort of fanatical extremist end, but it works. And the important thing is that you get empowered with the tools, the frameworks, the knowledge to make it work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that it's so interesting because for so long people have been told that they can't lose weight because they're weak-willed and undisciplined, or lazy and slothful or gluttonous. And, for many people, it's not about discipline. They're very disciplined. Sometimes what they're missing is skills. Okay, so skill sets, particularly around mind management, and quite often they've just been given the wrong advice around, best ways to nourish your body. And so, yeah, again, that's our favourite thing. We love chatting about that.
So we consider ourselves fairly moderate. Should we just, outlay maybe for new listeners, what is our general food philosophy? We're not just about food, but food is important. What are our general sort of food philosophy that we empower people to find the right kind of nourishment for them?
Yeah. So I think you need to get the basics first. So the basics for us, we have a very basic framework, and it is pick your protein. And that protein is eggs, meat, fish, dairy, can be tofu, tempeh. And again, they're low carbohydrate protein options. If you're metabolically flexible, then, if you want to add in legumes, that's up to you. It's not what Mary and I eat. But again, if that's what you want to do, we will support you in that. We then choose vegetables that are low in starches. So the majority of those are above ground vegetables, not entirely. I now found out radishes not that long ago are very low in carbohydrate. So, but that's just a rule of thumb. add some healthy fats if the protein is lean. And by healthy, we mean non-processed, so not industrialized. So for us, it's avoiding seed oils, so canola, sunflower, safflower, any of those things that are labeled vegetable oils. We avoid those, and we focus on healthy fats through, again, whole foods, butter, olive oil, can be the fat on the side of your chop, can be, egg, the fat in the eggs, nuts, all of those things are yummy. And then you add some flavor, because honestly, we don't want boring food. So we add the flavor with herbs and spices. That's how you get your flavor. It's perfect.
And it's so many different foods you can eat, and you get to, develop your skill set, decide what you like. You can have low carb baking if it works for you. There's an enormous variety of healthy, whole, real foods out there that you can learn to make work for you in a way that's yummy, delicious, fun. Don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent, and then you can avoid those bombs exploding in your face.
Absolutely. And that is my favorite saying. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be consistent. It's a bit like going to the gym. If you miss one day, no big deal. If you miss 2 days, no big deal. If you miss 3, you'll probably never go back. So there we go.
Yep. I like that.
All right, lovely ones. That's us for the week. We will catch you all next week. Bye for now.
Bye.
The information shared on the Real Health and Weight Loss podcast, including show notes and links, provides general information only. It is not a substitute, nor is it intended to provide individualized medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor can it be construed as such. Please consult your doctor for any medical concerns.